This video is all about ions. Make sure you have your periodic table out for this video, and you practice along as I go through different examples and problems. Pause as needed, like always. So first, ions are particles that have a positive or a negative charge. So we've been talking about atoms so far. Atoms are, you have no charge, all of your protons equal your electrons. So now when we're talking positive or negative charge, we are talking about when your atom gains or loses electrons. So if an atom has a positive charge, that's because it lost electrons. And if it has a negative charge, that's because it gained electrons. So what some students remember this by kind of thinking it's the opposite. Positive is losing, or negative is gaining. What I like to think of it as is that you're going to get a positive answer when you lose electrons, and electrons are negative, so you're losing a negative number. To get something negative, you're adding a negative number. All right, so with this, your protons, gaining or losing electrons, just said that, your protons never change. This is really important. Okay, protons never change. Protons define your element. So if you change your protons, you do not just change your charge, you change which element you have. For example, carbon always has 6 protons. Lithium always has 3 protons. So atoms become ions when the number of protons doesn't equal your electrons. So for example, if I had, let's say, let me get a pen, a marker. Hold on, sorry. Let's say I had, magnesium. Okay, so if I just wrote this, this would be an atom. So magnesium atom. Oops. Hold on, let me fix this. Okay, magnesium atom. The protons and the electrons would equal each other. So I look at the atomic number, which is 12, so they both be 12. Meaning I have 12 positives and 12 negatives, which will then equal 0. That's what an atom is, a charge of 0. If I have a magnesium ion, let's say it's +2 up here, that would be where my protons, my electrons don't equal each other. So the protons are still 12 because it's magnesium. But my electrons in this case, if this is a positive charge here, my electrons, I've lost 2. So I've got 10. So one way to think of this is I have 12 positives plus 10 negatives. And that will add up to a +2. And that's what my charge is here. Right? So we write this charge as a plus or a minus in the upper right corner, like I did with the magnesium. And let's go through these 2 examples. Okay, so hydrogen atom, if you look it up on your periodic table, hydrogen has protons, it has 1, that's its atomic number. With a +1 charge, our electrons here, if I go back up here, electrons are, if it's positive overall, you're losing electrons. So what's happening is I am losing 1. I have 1 extra positive than I do negative. So 1 more positive, so my protons are 1, my electrons would have to be 0. Okay, let's look at the oxygen here with a -2 charge. So with this -2 charge right here, let me circle it. Okay, my protons for oxygen, if you look on your periodic table, it's always 8. However, my electrons here, it's a negative, so I'm gaining electrons. Or what I like to do is I like to look at my number that I just circled here in blue as a -2 means I have 2 more negatives than I do of my positives. So 2 more negatives, 2 more than 8 is 10. Okay, so we'll do some more examples in a minute. But first, names. If we have a positive ion or a negative ion, they also have names specific to that. So a positive ion is called a cation, and a negative ion is called an anion. And there's kind of a silly little way to remember this. So here it is. All right, cation, kids always think of cats. So if I draw my cat, I'm such a good artist. And we draw little pluses for eyes. So your cation you can think of as pluses for eyes. That could help you remember that cations are positive. All right, I know it's silly. So anion, a lot of students say, well, that looks just like the word onion, one letter difference. And remember, if you've ever cut onions, your eyes close and you cry. So onions make you cry, so we've got these minus signs for eyes. Yes, I know it's silly. It might help you. All right, so let's do 2 more examples. Okay, so if we have nitrogen, so with a -3 charge. So nitrogen has an atomic number of 7. So that means we have 7 protons, right? That's always the case. Atomic number is always protons. So let's figure out our electrons. If we have a -3, we have 3 more negatives than we do positive. Okay, we're gaining electrons, right? This is the only thing that can change for our charge. So 3 more than 7 is 10. You could set it up like a math problem. You could set it up as 7 positives, there's your protons, plus how many negatives, right? Here's my x, we could say, equals -3. Okay, so that x would have to be 10. So that's another way to do it. Now, when it comes to our atomic number, our neutrons, we have to know our atomic mass. So atomic mass for nitrogen is 14.01. All right, so then our mass number, we are not told our mass number, which tells us that we can take this 14.01 and round it to the nearest whole number. So this is nitrogen with 14 up here and 7 here. And if you remember that 14 up top, that top number is protons plus neutrons. And the bottom, our atomic number, is just protons. So if you subtract the 2, this would have 7 neutrons. Okay, and -3, this would be an anion. Just to review that name. Okay, so the other one is a calcium +2. So let's try a positive one. So if I look up calcium on my periodic table, over on the left side, we've got an atomic number of 20. So that's our protons. So +2 charge. So that means I have 2 more positives than negatives. So I'm going to lose some electrons. Okay, so I'm going to lose 2 to be specific because now I have 2 more positives. 20 is 2 more than 18. So I have 20 positives versus 18 negatives. I could check this. If I have a +20 plus a -18, that should add up to +2. So then my neutrons, just like I did with the nitrogen, calcium's atomic mass is 40.08. So my mass number would be 40 since I'm not told that. So that means I have calcium 40 and then 20 here. And remember that top number is your protons plus neutrons and the bottom is just protons. So 40 minus 20 gives me 20. And this one is a cation because it's positive. So those are ions, and that's how to determine how many protons, neutrons, and electrons there are in each.